Morning, everybody. Jeremy Brunansky here with Brunansky's Vlog. It's Monday morning. It's 10 a.m. PST. We are getting ready to talk some movies. Before we do that, we want to make sure that we've got a good, healthy stream coming from YouTube. So let's give it a quick second. Take a look over, see if we've got that green light. Looks like we do. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this introduction. Give everybody a second to hop into this week's brand new live episode right here on YouTube. And then we will get things rocking and rolling because we have got a lot to talk about. So stay tuned. We'll be right back and then we will get going. All right, and good morning and welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeremy Brunansky. This is Brunansky's Vlog, live right here on YouTube every Monday morning at 10 a.m. PST, where we talk movie news, movie reviews, and a little bit more. So right now, let's just kind of cover what we are going to cover in this episode because we've got a lot to talk about. We've got some news stories that dropped that we're going to take a look at. We've got two movie reviews. This week, I was able to get out to the theater to see two films. I was able to see Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then the documentary about Mr. Rogers, Won't You Be My Neighbor? So stay tuned for those later in the show. We're going to get those reviews up for you guys. Then we're going to take a look at what's hitting theaters this week, what is hitting DVD and Blu-ray for your home theater this week, certified rad, and then at the very end of the show, before we close out, I'm going to go ahead and give you my top 10 episodes for comedians and cars getting coffee. That's right. The Jerry Seinfeld internet show started on Crackle. Now it's on Netflix, Comedians and Cars Getting Coffee. Stay tuned for that. That'll be at the end of the show. I'm going to give you my top 10 episodes because now it's in its 5th season. So we're going to take a look at that. But before we get into this week's show, we've got a couple commercials. So right up top, let's go ahead and remind everybody that if you aren't, go ahead and follow us on Twitter and on Stardust. Stardust is an app you can download from the App Store, and it's just at Brunansky's Vlog. That's what you're going to want to search for. Stardust is where I do all of my movie trailer reviews. So if you see movie trailers, if you watch them online, if you go to the movies and you get there early enough to enjoy them on the big screen, and you ever wonder, what does Jeremy think? Stardust. That's where you're going to want to check it out. Stardust at Brunansky's Vlog. All my trailer reviews are there. I got a bunch up right now, so check them out. And then again, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Brunansky's Vlog. Finally, don't forget to click the subscribe button here on YouTube if you're new to the channel, and then hit the bell so you get the notifications once new content drops so you don't miss out on anything. And then if at any point during the show, this episode particularly tickles your funny bone or you just enjoy it in general, go ahead and give me that thumbs up because the thumbs up helps people who like movie-related shows find this movie-related show right here on YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and jump now into this week's news segment. So stay tuned because here we go. Boom, there it is. Super quick transition, right? Thought you were going to get something wild and crazy. Nope, just real quick, real simple. Switch up that screen, give you guys the ticker tape down below. That's got the honorable mentions. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time watching, thank you for joining us. Previously, we would have an honorable mentions at the end of the news segment. Now we just have it right down below, running there for you guys to check out as we go through the news this morning. So let's, as we always do, jump into the weekend box office and we'll take a look at what you guys were seeing this weekend. Because as I stated, I got out to see Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then I got out to see Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary, and that was pretty good. So stay tuned for both of those reviews right after the news. But let's take a look at what you guys were watching. Now, if at any point you want to follow along with these stories, all of the links are down below in the show notes. So if you click the little arrow button, drop the description box, all of these articles, everything like that is going to be down there, as well as I put a separate link for the 1-year anniversary video because last week was our 1-year anniversary right here on YouTube. So thank you to everybody who's been with us since day one. Thank you for everybody that's come along and joined the movie community right here on this page. So if you didn't have an opportunity to check out the 1-year recap video, there's a link for that down there below, or you can just go to the special segments section right here on this channel. Special segments playlist, and it'll be right there waiting for you. It's the most recent upload. But let's take a look at what everybody was seeing this weekend. Coming in at number 5 to number 1. That's how we look at it here. So these numbers coming to us from Box Office Mojo. Number 5, Sicario, Day of the Soldado, coming in at 7,300,000. First Purge at 17,150,000. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom continuing to stay in the top 5 at 28,585,000. Incredibles 2 at 29,021,000. And finally, Ant-Man and the Wasp at $76,030,000. So job well done to Marvel and Disney and Pixar, right? For the top 2 films with Ant-Man and the Wasp and then Incredibles 2. Both very enjoyable films. Now, if you want my reviews for Incredibles 2, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or Sicario, all you got to do is go to the movie review playlist. All of my reviews are there. You can check those out. As far as the top 5 goes, though, not surprised to see Sicario still in the top 5. It did have a 61% drop from week 1 to week 2, which is a little surprising to me because I thought Sicario 2 was actually a pretty good movie in general. Like it wasn't, I don't think it was at the same caliber that Sicario was. I think it's a very different film. In my review, you'll hear me talk about the difference in tone as far as the split between 1 and 2 go. Number 1 was a little bit more action, but it was drama and action. So there was the emphasis on the characters and the drama that's going on with them and how they're kind of moving through what this world is that they finally inhabited. Whereas Day of the Soldado, Sicario 2, that seems to be just more action focused with some character emphasis, but it's not at the forefront, right? So it's more action based. It feels more like an action movie. Still really good, but I am surprised to see that gigantic drop of 61.6 according to the site. That's pretty big. First Purge, not surprising that's in the top 5. It's had a pretty strong following. I haven't seen any of these films, but I know people who have seen them and they've enjoyed them. The internet seems to suggest that once Jon Bernthal really started getting involved, that's when the series kind of turned around and really started getting better, similar to the Fast and the Furious. Once The Rock got involved, that whole franchise kind of turned into something like super fun and like crazy. And it seems like that's been the case ever since Jon Bernthal, but I haven't seen these films, so I can't say. If you have, comment down below and let me know. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom just crossed, what did I see? $1 billion globally. $1 billion globally. Again, I still feel like I'm the odd man out with this film. I didn't really love it. I was like, okay, that was a dinosaur movie. There's a lot of issues that I saw with it. The more money it makes, the more confused I get, but that's just how it goes, right? I've been in the arts my whole life. I get it. Some people like stuff, some people don't. It vibes with some people. They really pick up on it. Other people, it's just like, I don't understand. That's kind of where I am with this film. I don't understand. But hey, great job to everybody involved. Everybody is making money on this film. Everybody seems to be enjoying this film more than me. And that's cool, right? I'm glad you guys have something that you can go and enjoy at the movies. Why not go see some dinosaurs wreak havoc, even in a mansion? So there you go. Incredibles 2 I thought was fantastic. I really, really had a good time in the theater with Incredibles 2. I liked everything that they did with the characters and how they kind of explored some more options with Violet. And then also all of the stuff we got with Baby Jack Jack I thought was great. The whole thing with him and the raccoon, that whole scene, absolutely fantastic. My favorite part of the movie, hands down. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp, again, no big surprise there. They did a really good job. In my review in a few minutes, you'll hear that I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp was a far superior film to Ant-Man, which is a great thing to say. It has the reverse effect of Thor, right? Thor 1, awesome. Thor Dark World, not so awesome. Ant-Man, it was okay. Ant-Man and the Wasp, pretty awesome. So stay tuned for that. You'll hear those reviews in a little bit. Coming in just real quick in the top 10, we have Deadpool 2, Won't You Be My Neighbor at number 9, Tag at number 8, Ocean's 8 at number 7, Uncle Drew at number 6. So for all of these films, Deadpool 2, Won't You Be My Neighbor, Tag, Ocean's 8, Sicario, Jurassic World, Incredibles 2, and soon Ant-Man and the Wasp, all these reviews are available for you if you would like more information on these films in the movie review playlist. So check those out. First story coming to us from Empire. Miles Teller, the incredibly talented Miles Teller, is coming to the Top Gun franchise. That's right. He is going to be playing Goose's son, right? The partner to Tom Cruise's character who gets taken out in the first film. Tom Cruise obviously coming back. Val Kilmer surprisingly coming back. I thought that was pretty cool, and they announced that a while back that he was coming back for his role as Iceman. I'm looking forward to this film. I still don't know where I should put my excitement for this film, because the idea of all of these veterans, these Air Force veterans, like working with the new young staff who are going to be drone pilots, like in kind of that interesting conflict, if you will, of, get out there, be a pilot, fly the plane, use your intuition out in the field, out in the sky, right? Versus controlling it from a lab, right? Because it's like a video game, right? So you just control the drone as it's going places. You're not actually out there in the firefight doing everything. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that works. What will the tension be? Where will it rest? Because obviously you've got Tom Cruise, who his character may have some issues, right? Because this is his partner's son. The last time we were flying together, he died. I don't want that to happen to his son, but his son isn't really going to be out in the field if he's a drone pilot per se. I mean, maybe he has to learn how to fly, just to be a pilot in general, but I'm not sure. But it's going to be a little different because, if Tom Cruise is out there in the field flying around and Miles Teller is just sitting behind a keyboard, flying a drone from an office, it's a little bit different stakes as far as that's concerned. So I'm not really sure where to put my excitement. I'm not really sure how I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. But I'm not really sure where can we really rest our excitement at for this film? Because I don't yet understand kind of how it's all going to work. I can't see it in my head yet, and I can't follow what I think the story could be as far as making it interesting. Because what the old school versus the new school, I get that struggle totally. But then what are the stakes going to be? Where is everything going to kind of fall into place with the story, with these characters? It's a little different because, like I said, if Tom Cruise is looking down and being like, that's my partner's son, my partner died, in the last movie, it's not going to have the same tension because, like I said, in theory, we don't know anything, but in theory, in my head, he's going to be behind a keyboard flying a drone versus actually out in the sky doing dogfights, all that stuff. So looking forward definitely to more news from this story. And I'm curious to see who else comes on board, because Miles Teller, an incredible talent. There's still the movie that he just did a couple months ago or last year where he was the firefighter. I still want to see that. Haven't seen it yet, but if he's in a film, he's going to bring his A game, and you can definitely count on a really good performance. Same thing with Tom Cruise, and I'm looking forward to seeing Val Kilmer come back. So let me know in the comment section what you think about this story. Are you excited for Miles Teller joining the Top Gun franchise? What's your favorite Miles Teller movie? Hit it up in the comments. All right, next story. Jim Broadbent, and this is coming to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Jim Broadbent joins Judi Dench in Lionsgate 6 Minutes to Midnight. This is going to be a 1930s thriller co-written by Eddie Izzard. And if you aren't familiar with Eddie Izzard, he is a stand-up comedian. Very funny. I've been a fan of his stand-up comedy for a very long time. He does dress in drag, so if that kind of thing freaks you out, you might just want to listen to his stand-up comedy, because it's still really intellectual stand-up comedy that's really funny if you can't get past the fact that he's wearing a dress on stage. So there you go. You have been warned. Really funny stuff, really smart comedian. He does a lot of fun stuff with history and world history and stuff like that. But again, he does wear a dress. So if that's just too weird for you, just listen to his stand-up comedy, because it's really funny. So he is going to be co-writing this. And I didn't really know, kind of after I read the article, and again, it's available in the description box, just hit it up. I didn't really know what to expect from this story, right? Because obviously with Judi Dench and Jim Broadbent, I'm not leaning myself towards a comedy, right? I'm leaning myself towards more of the drama, more of the kind of Oscar-worthy performances, really digging into human experience, real emotion, raw emotion, real stakes, right? Those kind of things. Not necessarily Johnny English, the spy, not that type of humor or anything like that. So the basic story from the article is it's going to be about the daughters of high-ranking Nazis who learn to become faithful members of Hitler's League of German Girls. I am a fan of history. If you watch the show, you know I like history. I was not familiar with what this the Hitler's League of German Girls is. So I just did a quick Wikipedia on it. And basically, it's an indoctrination process for young German girls from the ages of 10 all the way up to 21. So it's a long process, right? So they go through and they kind of indoctrinate. We'll just use that word again, indoctrinate these girls into the Hitler youth camps, and they teach them how to be good, right? German Nazi girls that are eventually going to turn into good Nazi German wives and mothers. And then also at this time, they're using these girls to recruit young German boys for the Nazi camps to like go out and become like Nazi foot soldiers and stuff like that. Not the concentration camps, but like the actual military camps, like to train them how to become Nazi soldiers. And so it was really interesting reading up on this aspect of the war, because I was aware of, you know, the different types of warfare that the Germans launched on the Jewish and Polish and everybody else in that area. But I wasn't familiar with this aspect of it, where they're actually using these young German girls to actually go out and also recruit, not just to like go through training and, you know, reprogramming their brains to be Nazis, but like actually using them to go out into the cities, and or not really cities at this point, but townships and towns and villages and everything else, to go out through there, some cities, but to go out through there and, you know, kind of draft and recruit these young German boys to become Nazis. It sounds like it's going to be a very, very intriguing and very emotional film, where you've got, you know, emotional manipulation possibly going on with these girls trying to convince these guys to become Nazis, what they're going through, kind of like what we saw in Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence, that whole brainwashing thing that they do in the classrooms and stuff like that. There was a really interesting read online of what these girls went through to become the good, you know, German girls that the Nazi party was looking to recruit. So when I found out about that, I was like, this could be a really interesting film. It has a lot of potential, obviously, right? It's coming from a British perspective, so we don't necessarily need to assume that this is going to be like a pro-Nazi film. It's definitely going to expose some things. It's going to show a lot of what was happening at that time, and it's going to bring to light a few things that maybe you guys weren't familiar with, because I wasn't either, and now I'm looking forward to this film. So, and also, again, Judi Dench and Jim Broadbent, very talented actors. Eddie Izzard, very talented writer and comedian. So looking forward to seeing what type of drama he can bring to this very real and high stakes story about, you know, Europe during the 1930s. So comment below. Let me know what you think about that. Are you a fan of history? Are you a fan of just World War II history? Let us know in the comments below. All right, last news story for the day is coming to us from Deadline. This is Matt Damon and John Krasinski are working together on a Bill Clinton pardoned fugitive tale entitled The King of Oil. And this is about fugitive Mark Rich. And apparently this guy was, according to the article, and again, down below in the show notes, it's based on the book, and they got the rights for it. It's John Krasinski's production company. He got the rights for this book. They're going to try and work on this film. Looks like Matt Damon's going to come on board for it. We'll have to wait and see once that's confirmed. But Rich was pardoned by Bill Clinton on President Bill Clinton on his last day in office. Rich was a child of the Holocaust who became the wealthiest and most powerful oil and commodities trader of the century until his 1983 indictment on 65 criminal counts, including tax evasion. The book details his illegal dealings with Iran during the hostage crisis, cooperating with Cuba, cooperating with Israel and the U.S. governments. And he never faced a judge or jury because he was in Switzerland when he was indicted. And then what he did is he just lived his life abroad until he died at the age of 78 in 2013. Wow, right? So this guy pretty much was working with everybody, as you would expect from somebody who is, you know, doing oil and commodities, global economy, right? So he's working with everybody. He gets himself into some problems, but he's in Switzerland at the time. Things are just whatever for him. He's hanging out, doing whatever he does as a super rich guy. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you can't come back to the United States. So what does he do? He just lives his life abroad and until he dies. Like, he just basically travels around until he dies. Pretty interesting. I'm not quite sure what the drama and everything like that is going to be for this film, unless there's like this kind of like man on the run kind of vibe to it, or if it's just like because he's super rich, he can just kind of like fly his private plane to like just different non-extradition countries. Like, I don't quite understand how the drama and the intensity is going to work. I haven't read the story. I haven't read the book that it's based on. If you have, throw it in the comments below. But if this is going to be more of a dramatic piece that just kind of looks at the life and looks at the philosophies and looks at kind of like the mindset of this guy as he's kind of overseas in Europe and just kind of traveling around through all of that, possibly even the Middle East, right down to Cuba. So if it's going to be a look at this guy's life and kind of how he sees things, that intrigues me, because now we're actually getting into some of like, you know, what makes people tick. Who is this guy? What is going on in his life? He obviously is a Holocaust survivor. So there's already a lot going on there with the story as far as like what he sees the value of life being, where he places the value of life. Big stuff right there as far as philosophies of life go. But I'm curious just to see kind of where the drama, where the tension, where that heightened sense of things is going to be with this story. Because when I initially read it, I was like, this is interesting, but I want more. I want to get more from this story. And I haven't read the book, and I could get more from the story if I read the book, but I'm just being lazy right now, and I have a ton of other books ahead of it, so I haven't gotten to it, clearly. But I'm interested to see where we're actually going to get the drama. Where's the tension going to be? How is it going to resolve itself? Or is this just going to feel more like a documentary style film? We don't know yet. But if you've read the book, you have a much better idea. So if you have read the book, throw your comments down below. Kick us that insight, give us that knowledge, serve it up on a plate, and leave it in the comments section for all of us to check out. Thank you guys so much for that. And that pretty much wraps up the news. And now we're going to go ahead and move into the movie reviews. And again, I got out to the theaters to see 2 films this weekend, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Won't You Be My Neighbor. Interestingly, before we get into these are spoiler-filled reviews, FYI. So if you haven't seen them, you have been warned. We get into some spoilery goodness, definitely with Ant-Man and the Wasp. And interestingly, this was not planned. Again, I was going to go see Uncle Drew, and then I found out Won't You Be My Neighbor was actually playing nearby. And I was like, well, sorry, Uncle Drew, you just got bumped a second week, right? Because last week it was American Animals, that bumped it. This week, Won't You Be My Neighbor, that bumped it. And next weekend, we've got some movies which you'll hear about that may bump it as well. But yeah, both of these movies, interestingly, have a theme of love to them, which surprised me. Because again, it wasn't planned. I just went out, saw the movies, and then when I was writing up my reviews for both of the movies, I was like, both of these movies center around love. Really interesting stuff. You're going to hear more about it in just a second. So thank you guys so much. Again, once these reviews are over, don't go anywhere. That's not the end of the show. We've got what's hitting theaters, what is hitting DVD and Blu-ray this week, Certified Rad, my personal favorite segment, and I'm going to give you my top 10 episodes of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee before we sign off and end this week's brand new episode. All right, guys, we will be right back after these movie reviews, so don't go anywhere, and we'll see you in a minute. For over 30 years, one man, his imagination, his heart, and his philosophies helped shape the landscape of television, more directly, children's television. The show dared to provide analysis and perspective on complex and complicated issues happening in the modern world, and it broke it down in such a simple way for children to understand. This man understood and believed that children are special simply for who they are, not for who or what they will eventually become. And his show reflected this belief for over 3 decades. So, does Won't You Be My Neighbor take us on an honest journey of the man Fred Rogers, or is this neighbor getting his eviction notice? Let's talk about it in this review. The documentary begins by Mr. Rogers revealing the philosophies and concepts of the show that he was to create. It was basically a mission statement from a business perspective. He understood that in life, change is inevitable, and understanding change as a child can be complicated. He felt called to help calm the waters of change before they became turbulent. He saw children, just like adults, have profound thoughts and feelings. And he felt that it was our responsibility as adults to help guide them and instruct them to better prepare them for this crazy world that we, the adults, have created for them to eventually inherit. And he wanted to do this using television in a very honest, simplistic, and creative way. So the show Mr. Rogers was born in 1963. And 3 years later, the name evolved into Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where it remained for the life of the show. The documentary does a fantastic job of highlighting not just the man at work and at home, but also the show itself, and all of the people who are involved with it, both family members and friends. We are treated to an incredibly well done job of balancing pre-recorded footage with modern interviews of the people who were involved with the show, whether they were a friend or a family member of Fred's, and it does this what seems to be effortlessly. As calm as Fred was, so was the progression of this film, looking into the life of Mr. Rogers, his philosophies, his work ethic, his family, his creativity, and his passion for helping children. And this in turn helped us as adults better understand how to relate and deal with children as more than just something that's going to be a future consumer of goods and ideas. By the time the credits rolled, I was completely moved by the honesty of this film, as well as the honesty of the man Fred Rogers himself. Also, the passion he had for helping others deal with anxiety, friendships, sadness and loss, happiness and humor, and more. It felt like no screen time was wasted at all, and we got the truest depiction possible for this man, his philosophies, his show, and his heart. It's a revealing look into the life of an individual who stands apart from the crowd and challenges us, even still, to consider love as the only option for bringing about actual change in ourselves, in our neighborhoods, in our country, and throughout the world. His mission statement that he delivers at the very beginning of this movie really undersells the tremendous impact the show had, and this movie really reveals that. Won't You Be My Neighbor is playing at your local movie theater right now, and I am definitely recommending a big screen viewing of this film. As somebody who used to work with kids and counsel kids, this film had many profound moments for me. I was unaware walking into this movie how talented Mr. Rogers was, as well as how many of his own personal philosophies mirror my own. This film explores some beautiful moments as well as some complicated moments. And by the end of the film, we realized that's exactly how Mr. Rogers would have wanted it. He never shied away from discussing complicated and delicate matters. And by the end of the film, we get a really good sense of that as myriad topics are covered. Won't You Be My Neighbor gives us the full scope of things, and I personally was moved many times throughout this film. And because of that and all of the positives that we've already discussed in this review, Won't You Be My Neighbor is getting all the high fives from this guy. Won't You Be My Neighbor is playing at your local movie theater right now. Definitely go see this on the big screen and probably bring some Kleenex. You have been warned. Go see this film. It was 3 years ago that we were introduced to not one, but two Ant-Men. It was Marvel Studios' first official heist film, as we see ex-con Scott Lang, freshly released from prison, working with the team and crew to try and break into Dr. Hank Pym's vault and steal whatever treasures lie within. From there, we saw Ant-Man team up with Captain America in Captain America Civil War, and we all wondered where was Ant-Man during Infinity War. So, does Ant-Man and the Wasp deliver an entertaining and humorous sequel that stands on its own 6 legs, because ants have 6 legs? Or should we spray this film with Raid? Let's talk about it in this review. The theme of this movie seems to be love conquers all, and if we look at each of the individuals as separate devices all moving the plot forward, we can start to piece together this theme, with 1 or 2 exceptions. First, we'll take Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, who is trying to be a loving and attentive father while still being under house arrest from everything that happened in Civil War. As the story progresses, we usually discover that it's his love for Hope that calls him back into action, and the love of his daughter actually gives him the green light to go back into action one last time to help out both Hank and Hope. And through Scott's gigantic heart, both literally at some points and figuratively, with the help of his team and friends, he does save the day. Dr. Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne, played by Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, are trying to build a quantum tunnel, and they're using their brains and skills to do this so that they rescue their wife/mother, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And it's their love for Janet that pushes them to live a life on the run while never giving up hope and never stop working towards building that quantum tunnel, which means they also had to deal with black market tech sellers. The father-daughter relationships are strong in this film, and we see their love for each other continue to build from the previous movie. Hank has let go of his fear, and he sees now and has accepted that his daughter is able to handle dangerous and important situations. And Hope's love for her parents gives her the determination and the drive to just continue to battle and fight multiple assailants time and time again to get the items they need to build the quantum tunnel. As well as later in the movie we find out her love for Scott calls her to action, as she rushes in to save him in what we seem to believe will be a moment where he might drown underneath the water. We also have the rest of the cast showing their support and love in their own special ways. Scott's family continues to be supportive and loving as his house arrest sentence is almost up, and all of the ex-cons that he worked with in the previous film have all started a security company together and have an office that they all share. We continue to see incredible heart from each of these characters, and here in this sequel, it's even more prevalent. And now 2 films in, we better understand each of their personalities and their little quirks, which really add to the charm of the second film. No scene was this made more obvious than when they were in the office for the truth serum moment. That was glorious fun. All right, let's talk about the new characters. Go ahead and enter Ava and Sunny. The 2 main antagonists were the exception to the theme of love running throughout this film, and they were also brand new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Both of these individuals were only out for their self-interests. Ava, played by Hannah John Kamen, was trying to find a cure to save herself as she experienced a quantum tunnel mishap when she was a child, and now as she's getting older, she's slowly starting to vaporize into nothing. She has probably one of the more tragic stories in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for both hero and villain. Sunny is a black market tech dealer who is only looking out for his reputation as a black market tech dealer because he doesn't want any of his clients to go anywhere else to find what they need from him in regards to tech. Interestingly, and to the credit of the writers, both of the villains and the FBI create this complex, balanced struggle that progresses throughout the film. What initially starts off as just a simple one-on-one struggle turns into a mad race where everybody is searching and everybody is racing for the exact same item by the end of the film. Really well done, great work. Continuing with the theme of love and how that drives the narrative, we cannot forget Dr. Bill Foster, played by Lawrence Fishburne. While his character in this film did feel a bit underdeveloped and rushed, we still get a sense that he is leading from a place of love. While working for S.H.I.E.L.D., he finds Ava as a small child just after the quantum tunnel incident and takes it upon himself to help her find a cure so that she doesn't vaporize into nothing. He's not her father, but he takes a fatherly love approach to her to help her find a cure. Again, just building on the father-daughter relationships we see in this movie, really tying things up nicely. Ant-Man and the Wasp is playing at your local movie theater right now, and I am definitely recommending a big screen viewing of this film. I really enjoyed the story. The humor and the jokes landed a majority of the time, and the special effects were done really well. Just judging from the trailers that we saw, I did have a concern walking into this film that the size manipulation would be so prevalent that it might start to get a little cheesy and hokey, and I'm happy to report that that was not a feeling I had at all walking out of the theater. And I don't want to give the impression that I thought this was a perfect film, because it is not, but a large majority of the film I really loved my time in the theater for. However, I did have an issue with how Scott Lang's character seems to be less intelligent in this film. Also, I didn't understand why Bobby Cannavale's character turned into the Hug Machine 3000. But these little character choices, these little nuances to their personality, they didn't really pull me out of the film at all, and they definitely did not detract from the fun that I was having in the theater with this movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a better film than its predecessor, and that's a good thing. And because of that, it's getting both high fives from this guy. Ant-Man and the Wasp is playing at your local movie theater right now. Go see Marvel's smallest heroes on the largest screen possible. Like right now. The review's over. Go! All right, and we are back. And there you go. There's the movie reviews for you. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Welcome. Won't You Be My Neighbor? And Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, interestingly, before I went to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp, I didn't realize this, and I should have, because the theater I go to, they got a Dolby theater there. And if you're familiar with Dolby, you know that that's like the big screen with the best sound, right? Reclining chairs, a lot of fun. If you go before noon, it's a lot cheaper. Definitely recommend that. So they always do these, they're not always, but sometimes they do these little promotional things, right? So if you go to the Dolby theater, you can get like, I got a wand, right? So Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I went and saw that. Before the movie, they gave me a wand. When I went to see Spider-Man Homecoming, they gave me a little Spider-Man action figure thing. And then when I went to see Thor Ragnarok, I got a little commemorative coin of the little Real D 3D Dolby commemorative coin. And when I was walking into Ant-Man and the Wasp, the girl that was there that was ripping tickets, she goes, "Would you like your comic book?" And I said, "I would love a comic book. Yes, thank you." And she goes, "Here you go." And she hands me this teeny tiny sized comic book, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it says Prelude. It's really small. See if I can get it up. If it'll even focus that close, I don't know. But there it is, the Ant-Man. It's not focusing. All right, so there it is, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, tiny comic book. Now, if you're wondering, Jeremy, how are you supposed to read that thing? Great question. And if you saw the thumbnail, you know that I look super weird because I have a magnifying glass in front of my eye. That's right. They gave me an Ant-Man and the Wasp magnifying glass to help read the tiny little comic. I thought that was a lot of fun. So I enjoy these little doodads that the theaters give out before we see these movies. So if you have an opportunity and you want to get a teeny tiny comic book, the Ant-Man and the Wasp Prelude, which is literally just the Ant-Man movie, but condensed into a super tiny little comic book, go check them out in Dolby. You should be able to get those if they still have them. It's always while supplies last. But it's a lot of fun. It kind of makes the movie experience like you're getting something for the price of those tickets, which can be expensive at times. So it's kind of cool that they give those little things out. So I was like, oh, a teeny tiny comic book and a magnifying glass. That's fun. So anyway, we'll move forward from there. We're going to move into just a real quick moment of silence for Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko just recently passed away. You know, a creator of one of my favorite heroes in the Marvel universe, Doctor Strange. He's also a big influence for Spider-Man, a creator there, and it's just he's got a lot of other people out there that he's created for too. So Steve Ditko, I grew up reading his Spider-Man comics when I was a kid. My mom would take me to a lot of things. I grew up around a lot of women. So I was always doing a lot, like I'd go to hair salons with my mom and hang out with a bunch of women as a small child. So there was a lot of things that, and then I always hung out with my mom and her friends. I had all female cousins. There was a lot of female influence in my life growing up. And one of the things where I was like, okay, you know, we all have our red line where we're just like, all right, that's enough. I got to go do a dude thing. Like I've got to go like do a dude thing. One of those things for me was comic books. So when my mom would go shopping, she'd go, I got to go to the quilting store. And I was like, that's my red line right there. I'm not going to a quilting store. Like I can do a lot of other stuff. Quilting stores where I draw the line, Mom. So right next door to the quilting stores was a comic book shop. So I would go into the comic book shop and then I would just read comics while my mom was shopping for stuff to sew into quilts or blankets or whatever she was doing at the time. So Steve Ditko, obviously I read all of the early Spider-Man runs, the Fantastic Four, not necessarily him, but all the early stuff. And there was this point where they would redo the covers to make them look more modern. But then when you opened them up, it was the classic, like actual artwork. It was just like a reprint of like the actual old school comics. So I grew up reading all of those with the Lizard, the Shocker, everything else. So when I read that, I was like, oh, that's a bummer because he's a really talented guy. He contributed a lot to the comic book community, but more importantly, he contributed a lot just to people's enjoyment of comics, right? He brought me a lot of happiness being able just to read these Spider-Man comics as a kid while my mom was out shopping for quilting supplies and stuff like that. So like I was like, that's a bummer because whenever you lose a lot of talent, whenever anybody dies, it's sad. But when you lose someone that's that talented like that, even though he was super old, it's still kind of a bummer. So just a real quick moment of silence. And then if you have a favorite comic book character that he created, again, mine's Doctor Strange, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. We'll give it just a second here. Just to remember all the great artwork and all of the great characters and stories that he helped create in his career. All right. So let's go ahead and move now into what is hitting theaters this week. Then we're going to take a look at what is hitting DVD and Blu-ray for your home theaters this week. Finally, Certified Rad, my personal favorite segment. And before we go, I'm just going to give you my top 10 episodes of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee because the brand new season just dropped on Netflix. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend it. Really good stuff. Well, I'll give you my top 10, but let's go ahead and take a look at what's hitting theaters this weekend. That's right. The Rock is back with another big blockbuster. We had Jumanji. Now we have Skyscraper. And then right after that, we have Hotel Transylvania 3. I had to take a quick drink of iced tea there. Hotel Transylvania 3 and Skyscraper, both hitting theaters this week. I'm looking forward to both of these films. I'm not going to lie. My nieces and nephews, pretty excited about the Hotel Transylvania 3. They've enjoyed the whole franchise, right? So they're pretty excited about it. I'm sure we'll probably do like a family thing for it. I'm imagining. I don't know. But Looking forward to both of these movies. They both look super good. They both look very funny in their own, well, not they both look very funny, but they both look very fun in their own respect, right? We got, from what The Rock was saying online, he's paying homage to some of his favorite action movies and action stars in this film. So that gets me pumped to think that like I'm going to go in and this is just going to be like giant iced tea, unsweet, right? Unsweet iced tea just right there, just so I can guzzle that down. Lots of popcorn or whatever they're selling at whatever theater I go to see the film. But just like sitting there, just like, yes, let's do this. It's going to be awesome. Movies for guys who like movies. If you guys remember, movies for guys who like movies. Back in the 90s, I feel like this is just going to be right there. I cannot wait to watch giant explosions, buildings, him jumping in and out of a building, knocking people out, bad guys getting thrown from building. It's going to be crazy fun. Cannot wait. Next, Hotel Transylvania 3. Again, it's been a fun franchise. I've had some good laughs in the first two films. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll let you know. Either way, stay tuned because hopefully I'll be able to get out to the theater to see both of those films this weekend. All right, let's hit up DVD and Blu-ray. We have The Leisure Seeker, Chappaquiddick, and A Quiet Place. Did not see The Leisure Seeker, but I did want to. I don't know how I missed it. It must have been a very limited release. But Chappaquiddick and A Quiet Place, I did see both of those. My reviews are up in the movie review playlist for both of those films. Spoiler alert, really liked A Quiet Place. Really liked A Quiet Place. Chappaquiddick was good, but really liked A Quiet Place. Did not expect the story to be as good as it was. I expected to go in and see cool monsters and stuff like that, right? Because you got to be quiet or the monsters find you or these aliens find you and then they attack, which definitely does happen. But just the characters in it, how the characters develop, the genuine feeling that you get watching them of kind of their struggle, of their will to survive, the fear, like you really feel it. You get a really good sense of things in this film. And I was really, really impressed with the story overall. About two parents trying to protect their children, figuring out ways to survive. Brand new baby comes into the world, right? How you can't make noise. So how are they going to keep this baby safe when all of these aliens hunt by sound? Crazy, crazy good stuff. Really walked out of the theater impressed with the story and very surprised again by just how well it delivered, because I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. So definitely check out A Quiet Place. If you like movies based on the Kennedys and that whole Camelot vibe, you're gonna want to check out Chappaquiddick because that's definitely there for you. But yeah, Quiet Place, that is definitely where it's at. All right, so moving forward, we're going to take a look now at my personal favorite segment. You guys never know what's going to drop, but I can guarantee whatever drops will most definitely be certified rad. So certified rad this week, we have got, we're right in the middle of it. This is happening right now, people. Boom. You turn on the news, we're hearing about it. The kids trapped underground during monsoon season in Thailand. Terrifying. If you're the type of person who doesn't even want to go spelunking, you don't even want to go cave diving. You see a cave and you're like, forget it. Nope, that's not me. I'm out. I'm going to go over here in the sunshine. This has got to be the most terrifying news story of the year for you. I've gone spelunking. I don't really care. It's fine. But if you're terrified of like small places and confined spaces and whatever, then you probably are just absolutely mortified and just horrified for these children who are stuck in this cave as the water levels are rising. This is not a good time for them at all. And we've already got a few kids saved, thankfully, and we've got even more possibilities on the way, right? So if you're following Elon Musk on Twitter, you know that he really felt called to get to work with his team to try and figure out a way to help save these kids. So he created a submarine, a little mini submarine, to kind of help, because it's such a journey, right? To get out of the cave. It's not just like they walk in, oh no, we're stuck, we got to walk out. Like, it is like way in and then they got to come way out. Like, it is not good. And it's super tight, water's rising, people are drowning. Even with scuba gear, they're running out of oxygen. This is not a good time to be alive for them. This is scary, scary stuff. So what did he do? He and his team started working on what they call the mini sub that is like an escape pod in space. And it's based off of technology that they're already using on his SpaceX program. So it's durable. And it's basically built, it's a little submarine that is built for these kids, right? To try and get these kids out a lot quicker than what's happening right now. And I mean, he's boom, like he saw the need and he was like, let's get to work. And I mean, outside of the fact that this is private industry, because it's his company, right? He doesn't have to go through wait for the government to approve stuff. He can just look at his team and go, let's get to work today. The power of enterprise and private industry. Love that. But he looked at his team and he said, we got to get this done today. And then we got to get it over there and we got to get these kids out and we got to get them safely. And when you can kind of step back and look at an immediate need to really help people and to really save lives, and you can act on it in such a profound and such a quick and rapid pace to get assistance across the world, literally from California all the way over to Thailand, right? You can get it across the world to help these kids. You can guarantee that that is certified rad. So definitely check out this article. It's coming to us from NBC News. It gives you some footage of like what the sub looks like, their testing facility in California that they were using it on. They also throw in there some of Elon Musk's tweets as he's kind of going through everything to kind of give us the full scoop, if you will, the full scoop of what his team is working on to try and help save these kids. Because again, it's not just like these kids walked into the cave and they can walk out. They're deep in the cave, water's rising, it's monsoon season. This is not a good time. This is a horror movie. If there was ever a real life horror movie, this is it. All right, so that is Certified Rad. That is the movie reviews. That's the news. That is DVD and Blu-ray, what's hitting theaters. We're about to wrap up. But like I said, we're going to take a look at the top 10 episodes, from my opinion, of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Now, this show's been on the air, the internet air, right? Not TV, but the internet, for a few years now. It started on Crackle. That was the only reason I had Crackle. Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. That was the only thing I watched on there. Then, eventually, it moved over to Netflix. And all of the episodes came over from Crackle as well. So, if you're looking at this video right now and you're going, Jeremy, you make it sound so good. I wish I could watch all those episodes. I do make it sound good. And you can watch those episodes because they're on Netflix. So check those out. All right. So my top 10, because this is their 5th season. And basically, if you don't know what the show is, it's basically a continuation of Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld was the show about nothing, just your normal day-to-day activities. How do we make it funny? What kind of spin can we put on it to keep it entertaining? Brilliant. One of my favorite shows. Love Seinfeld. Have all the seasons on DVD. Love Seinfeld. This show is basically that. Jerry gets a car that he thinks matches the guest, who's a funny actor or a funny comedian, or a writer or a comedy producer. And he picks a car that he thinks matches their personality. He explains why. They hang out, they talk, they crack jokes, they tell stories, they drink coffee. Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. It's a show about nothing but real life people doing real life things in real life while it's being recorded. It's fantastic. All right, so 5 seasons in 71 episodes, over 3 seasons with 71 episodes. Cups of coffee going into the 5th cup, so I'm assuming that's the 5th season. Because when you pull it up on Netflix, it's like C1 episode 4, 5, 6. So, and each one is like titled a coffee thing. So I'm assuming that the seasons are cups of coffee, which is pretty creative. So cup of coffee number 1 is going to be season 2, cup of coffee number 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So in no particular order, I was just rewatching these over the past couple days because, like I said, the new season dropped. So in no particular order, my top 10 episodes. Cup of coffee, number 1, episode 4 with Alec Baldwin. And we're going to stay at cup 1 with episode 14, Ricky Gervais. Then we're going to move on to cup 2, or also in cup 1, Tina Fey. So in that first season, in your first cup of coffee, you're going to have Alec Baldwin, Ricky Gervais, and Tina Fey. There you go. Season 1, episodes 4, 14, and 12. Then cup of coffee number 2, we're going to have episode 3 and episode 5 with Will Ferrell, and then Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner. They do a joint episode with Jerry. So it's Will Ferrell and Jerry, and then Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, and Jerry in cup of coffee number 2. Cup of coffee number 3, we have 3 episodes with episode 2, 3, and 13. And that is Steve Harvey, Steve Martin, and Brian Regan. And then we're going to move into cup of coffee number 4 with episode 10 with Bob Einstein. Really good stuff there. You probably don't recognize the name, but when you see him, you'll be like, definitely know that guy. And then finally, we're going to finish it off with Cup of Coffee number 5, episode 3 with Ellen DeGeneres. So there you have it. We have Alec Baldwin, Ricky Gervais, Will Ferrell, Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, Steve Harvey, Steve Martin, Brian Regan, Bob Einstein, Tina Fey, and Ellen DeGeneres. And then the very last episode of this season is with Jerry Lewis. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because, you know, being a fan of the Rat Pack and everything like that, I followed Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis's comedies together when they were like the biggest movie stars on the planet for a while. And, you know, I used to walk around and I would just do his voice for the lovely ladies. Like, I would just, at random, when I got bored, I would just do that Jerry Lewis thing. So I was watching this and I'm like, okay, cool. This is like a nice look back at kind of what he's done over his career, kind of what he's doing to help people with his charities and stuff like that. And then Jerry actually asked him about the ladies, lovely ladies. And I just fell out. I was like, yes. Because there's so many, like, I've talked to people, I do that voice, they're like, what is that? And I'm like, don't worry about it. And so it was so cool to like get that back just for really quick. And I was like, there it is. There it is. It's so great. And he kind of talks about how that started and everything like that. So I was like, that's really cool. So we're going to give an honorable mention to the last episode of this season with Jerry Lewis. And that is going to wrap up this week's episode of Brunansky's Vlog, live right here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining again. If you haven't, go ahead and click that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get the notifications. Give me the thumbs up if you enjoyed any portion of this episode, because the thumbs up helps people who like movie-related shows find this movie-related show right here on YouTube. Also, if you haven't yet, in the description box, I put the link for the 1-year anniversary video. Again, last week was our 1-year anniversary on YouTube. So created a little recap of a year's progress and what we've all done here on YouTube together talking movies. So check that out. We'll see you guys next Monday at 10 a.m. PST right here on YouTube with a brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog. Until next time, and as always, I hope you guys are able to get out to the theater to see some movies that we talked about, and I hope you guys are able to leave your comments down below with your thoughts on today's topics. And until next time, and again, as always, good night and good luck.